What's up, everybody? KG here, founder of the InternetMoney.io wallet, which is a wallet that supports all of your favorite EVM chains and your non-favorite ones too. We support all EVM chains available on Android, iOS, and Chrome. Incredible in-app DEX aggregator, best place to swap on PulseChain. I am here with some exciting guests this afternoon, evening, morning, night, wherever it is you are in the world. We are continuing on our series of deep dives. We want to bring education to the crypto space. For those that have been following the channel, following the journey, you know that our home chain is PulseChain, but we are growing our community on chains like Ethereum, Binance, Polygon, and some other chains. And so when we find projects that have their protocols on multiple chains, they are really good projects to bring on an interview because we are in this multi-chain reality. Now, disclaimer, that's going to apply to myself and the guests on the show today. We're not going to say it over and over again. This is the one time it applies to everything said. This is not financial advice. Past performance does not constitute good future performance, and always do your own research. So today I'm joined by Buck and Hexastani Dylan, who are going to teach us about 4 different protocols that they've built. We have Fame, which is a fork of GMX. We have Fux, which is a fork of Balancer V2. We have Fiat, which is a fork of Aave, and we have Fatty, which is a portfolio tracker, and I believe is a fork of D-Bank, but I'll let them tell me that for sure. We'll be back in one moment, and they'll join us on screen.
Got my own keys and my own coin. Gotta protect this money. Took too long for me to get it. Can't let them take this from me.
What's up, gentlemen?
How's it going, sir?
Good to see you. Thanks for joining me today.
Hey, everybody.
And I apologize. I should have introduced you as Barry Fink, the Cabal chairman. My apologies, sir. Forgive me.
Yeah. No, Buck's fine. I just thought I'd be a little bit funny. But yeah, it occurs to me now that there might be a lot of people listening that don't know anything about us. So yes, I'm Buck. But today I'm going by Barry Fink. It's a little bit of an inside joke. Apologies for that.
No, all good. It's something that if you are new and you're just being introduced to Buck here, you'll know that he changes his name quite often to go with the current meta. And so that is his brand, is always staying up with the times. A very trendy cat.
Yeah, we very much enjoy jokes in the PH ecosystem. I'll tell you that. Okay.
Yeah, that's kind of how we got in. That's kind of how we got into this. We just like memes, and
yeah,
we like talking a lot of shit to each other, and then that turned into kind of a full-time gig, and that's how we got here.
Hey, you know what? We meme hard. Let's crypto even harder. There's something to be said for that. So yeah, if you're out there and you like memes and you like deep, awesome DeFi, well, these guys got it all. They got you covered in every respect. So what I'd like to do today is, since we have a limited time and we have a lot of crypto to cover in your 4 ecosystems, I would like you guys to kind of start us off with, maybe you have an overview if everything sort of ties together, or if you have something central you want to focus on. Go ahead and kick us off.
Yeah. Yeah, is it all right if we maybe have Dylan pull a screen up if Dylan's able to? So just
Absolutely.
Sure.
I'll just I'll give a little verbal overview while you do that, Dylan.
Sure.
Maybe that we'll divide and conquer that way. So
What do you want to say?
well, let's just start with PHUX. So the PH ecosystem, if you will, looks to bring all the best Ethereum EVM style DeFi protocols to PulseChain that basically weren't already being covered by Richard Hart. Our background, a bit about us, we're a small team of three investment professionals. Two of us are computer scientists, and I'm not a computer scientist. I'm kind of an idiot, but I kind of organize everything. So we basically looked at things that we knew that PulseChain would need, probably about a year before PulseChain actually arrived. And one of those things was an Aave fork. We knew that we needed borrowing and lending. Another thing was a balancer fork, because we didn't have a stable swap mechanism for the stables, DAI, etc. But similar to what Curve does, Balancer allows this. Uniswap v3 allows this, but we knew that PulseX, which is the primary DEX on PulseChain, wouldn't. So we did this as well. And then the last one was a leverage trading platform. So we forked GMX. So we have a pretty strong background in the kind of risk management derivatives side of things. That's our bread and butter. We do that for a living every day. So this sort of stuff actually lent itself nicely to what we're already used to. So a little bit about Dylan and I. Dylan and I are basically both Hex OGs and have kind of been in the RH ecosystem since day one. We're not maxis. Dylan and I have positions all over the place, and I've never been a maxi ever. I've always been a guy that likes to ask hard questions, and I get a lot of pushback and hate for that. But we do like seeing opportunities and seizing them, and that's really what we're all about. So we brought Dylan on to basically help us with the community. The team is anonymous, so Dylan's somebody that's really well liked by the community, well respected, unlike me. So we brought him on because he's basically there to be a face to things. So that's a bit of an overview of our three protocols. The last one is Fatty.io, and that is sort of like a DBank fork, except that DBank isn't forkable because the code is proprietary. But DBank has done a very good job of supporting PulseChain thus far. So we're kind of making it more just like our toolbox for things that we would like to be able to keep track of. So that's Fatty.io. So it's got some DBank-esque features, but it's also got some coin market cap, style features as well, and does a few other things. So that's really what we've been doing. But yeah, we're kind of agnostic towards chains. If we think there is good opportunities elsewhere, we'll be looking there, and that's always been our policy. That shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. So hopefully you guys can't hear my son screaming in the background. I think he's probably having a diaper change. So yeah, that's probably the overview.
Well, first of all, if we can hear your son in the background, that just makes us like you a little more, because at the end of the day, we're all human. And congrats to you and your family on the kiddo. And okay,
yeah, thank you. It's great. It's great being a dad. I'm enjoying it a lot.
Glad to hear that. From one father to another.
Nice.
So, okay, so let me rewind a little bit. So, first of all, as far as like to the PulseChain community watching, for any project that is going multi-chain, that is something that should have you bullish, because these projects that are keeping PulseChain as their home, when we're out there, because Internet Money Wallet is also a multi-chain project, as we're out there engaging with these other communities, I'm constantly talking about PulseChain, constantly onboarding people into PulseChain. So multi-chain only helps PulseChain in the long run. So circling back, you threw out names like Aave fork, GMX fork, Balancer fork. And for those that know what they are, know what they are. But let's just assume that somebody doesn't know what those things are. Can you start? So we have Fux pulled up here. At a high level, Fux is a DEX. But do you maybe want to talk a little bit about what makes Fux special? Can you tell us a little bit about why this isn't just a normal DEX that people are used to? Anything there?
Go for it, Dylan.
Sure. Yeah. So PHUX, obviously is a fork of balancer. There's a couple of things that differ from a regular, Uniswap V2 DEX, right? Than balancer. Okay. So first off, a fit that comes in really handy with PulseChain is, if you can see down here, the Maximus perps, where you can have more than 2 tokens in a pool, right? So off the bat, you can see there's 6 tokens in this pool here, right? You can pair up to 8 in some of these pools, right? And that kind of helps in this fringe use case that we have on PulseChain, right? With the Maximus stuff, we have the Hedron Icosa wrapped with Hex on some of these pools, like the Hedron Maxi pool right here, right? There's tons of different ways that you can kind of put all these things together to kind of tailor make a pool for you and your community, right? It's great for also specifically changing weights in pools, right? So, on the first pool, the Prime PHUX pool, you'll see it's 80-20, which means there's 80% PHUX in this pool and there's 20% Pulse, right? So you can change the weights, which can help with founders trying to launch a token. Instead of having to go 50-50 on a regular pool, they can do 80-20. They can even do, 95-5, right? Depending on how they want to weight this stuff. Okay. Which is really helpful for people, building and creating new protocols, right? Like you see here, the time pool, right? 80-20, right? And it has plenty of time for you to buy. And if you need to get out, obviously the Pulse is there. Okay.
Mhm.
And the real
Dylan,
thing,
I was going to say, don't forget about fees as well. You have flexibility in setting your own fees as the owner.
that's true. Yeah.
Which is kind of a big benefit because you don't fees are very rigid on Uniswap forks.
Exactly.
So here we have pools that are 5 basis points, and we have other ones that are 1%. Right.
Yeah. So you can see down here.
Is it completely custom or is it predefined fees?
It's custom in the sense that if you create the pool, you can change it. You're the owner of the pool effectively in that regard. You can't change the weights, but you can change the fees. So that's incredibly useful. And the whole way that PulseChain keeps its stable coins stable is actually via these pools currently, because we're really the only guys with size. I think 9mm maybe has one now, but like it's small in comparison. Whereas we have millions of dollars sitting in these different stable pools. USDL, PXDC, all these new ones. They're stabilized by all the ARM bots that are basically buying and selling them. Now this isn't super interesting to people that are trying to 100x the next meme coin, but it's an essential part of the infrastructure of PulseChain or any chain really, is to have stable coins that aren't trading at 95 cents or $1.04, right? So and what that's doing all day long is creating a lot of fees, basically. So you can see like the Bridge stable pool has done $4.8 million worth of fees today. I guarantee you the vast majority of that is just bots doing that, right? Or it's so every time someone makes a little trade somewhere, whether they make it on PulseX or not, it pushes the equilibrium out. So a bot needs to come in and basically adjust that. We also have things like flash loans in this, we're really over the moon happy with this protocol's performance. This was a free airdrop that we've given out to a number of communities. I think we did something for you guys, as a matter of fact.
You did,
if I recall. Yep. And we've really been trying to support the third-party builders like you guys since day one on this. So we do pretty well, like in terms of our H coins, but we're never going to be as big as PulseX in that regard, obviously. But I think if you look at a lot of the other third-party projects, the kind of serious ones, they're going to have major liquidity here, if not the most liquidity. So things like Maxi Perps, like we put those all in one different pool. So that's very important to the app because these things never had much liquidity in the past, whereas now there's $1.6 million sitting there that allows you to kind of go in between them quite easily, which is really useful. So if you're a founder on PulseChain, odds are there's a useful pool for you here, and then the rest of the tokens are being distributed to the people that provide LP. So we have today currently around TVL of around $30 million. That's after a pretty big sell-off the past few days.
Yeah, I think 3 days ago we were almost at 40 million. So just for
and
almost $1 billion in volume too. Not bad.
Yeah, I mean it's actually pretty impressive numbers, for a fork that we put together for free in about 2.5 weeks. When there was that initial bug on PulseX V1, we seized that moment, and we're just super happy about this. The people that provide LP on here are really the ones that receive all of the tokens over time, and that gives you voting power over where the rewards go and things like that. So and that's what they call VEPHUX. So yeah, I would say those are probably the highlights on VEPHUX, and it's definitely been something that kind of surprised us with its success. But it's something I'm really glad that we did, and it's been good because it's given me a chance to go talk to a lot of different founders like yourself.
And I will say this about the PHUX and the underlying balancer protocol in general is I had heard about balancer, but I never really spent the time to deep dive into it. But because I'm over here on PulseChain, and because you guys are one of the major dexes on PulseChain, I spent more time diving into balancer and learned the power and how actually just cool it is that you can have more than 2 token pools. And I think that I'm starting to kind of, it really clicked, and it made Uniswap seem practically irrelevant, even Uniswap V3 to a degree. So with Uniswap V4, it almost seems like they're going to have to do something balancer-esque to stay relevant and up with the times, because this seems like the next generation of dexes.
It's interesting. Yeah. I mean, V3 Uniswap is very efficient for certain things. But this thing kills V2. Like, yes. It's better than V2, yes. Hands down.
100%. Full stop.
Having said that, V2 is well understood by everyone in crypto. So like I think Richard made the right call in launching a V2. And I don't think it would have been good for him to launch a V3 version in hindsight either. So, I don't want anyone to get off sides there. Like, I think it's pretty good. In reality, you want all these tools. Like, we're not really threatened by someone launching a V3 or whatever, but this thing does something that none of the other dexes can do. And for us, that's enough. Like we're pretty happy just to make sure that we give people that ability. And yeah, you're right. Having the ability to put similar tokens with similar covariances together is really useful, right? So if Time and IM, are going to trade similarly, like they're natural bedfellows. But if one has way more liquidity than the other, or gets traded a lot more, maybe you want to change the weights, right? So that they're not 50-50. If you're launching a token, maybe you don't want to get murdered by people dumping on you. So you can, skew it 80-20. Like, there's just a lot of different useful things that you can do with this protocol. And it's pretty amazing. We created $20 million of value out of thin air with this thing. So we're quite proud of that.
Yeah. And within the Internet Money wallet, we have a DEX aggregator is constantly searching all of the DEXs on PulseChain. Pateus, it also searches Pateus as well. And Fux, or PHUX, sorry, it's just so hard not to say it that way. It often comes up as the top place to swap within the Internet Money wallet. And that is a side-by-side comparison to all the DEXs by themselves and Pateus also. So it's interesting that even from a higher yielding swap perspective, PHUX is often on the top. Not always. It's not always winning the race, but it's often up there.
Yep. Yeah, and there's a few reasons for that. One is, in general, it's going to be more efficient than a V2 style DEX. Two, that's the way arbitrage works, right? If everybody's trading on one thing and the price, it gets expensive on one DEX, then to find equilibrium, it's gonna go elsewhere. So the beautiful thing about the aggregators, and it was actually Richard Hart who taught me to use an aggregator.
Yeah, I think we all became very familiar with 1 inch and Matcha pretty quick.
Yeah, because of Richard Hart. So thank you, Richard Hart, for that education. Grateful for that. But I mean, aggregators are wonderful, and I'm not really militant about this stuff. Like, I just think you should always get best execution for yourself. And a lot of people like to get, because they own maybe a Uniswap token or a PulseX token or whatever token, they think, oh, I'm going to be loyal to that DEX. But the reality is that's a fallacious argument, because in reality, when you go and trade inefficiently, meaning you get a suboptimal result, there's an ARB bot that trades on the back of you and gets a free profit.
Exactly.
So you're literally making some like computer programmer in Bangalore money every time you do that. So like, if you want to make that guy happy, keep doing that. Otherwise, I think it's your moral duty both to yourself and to just money to get yourself the best deal always. We call that in the business best execution. So look around. Sometimes, from my experience trading on PulseChain, Dylan, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but sometimes you'll get a better option on something like Pidius, but not always. Sometimes it makes sense just to go straight to, because they charge their fees as well, I think, and I should disclose that I'm a major token holder of Pidius, right? So I do have a little bit of a conflict there, but they charge their fees as well. So I always compare. I look around, I look at what PulseX is going to cost me. I look at what PHUX will get me, and I'll just go with whatever I think gets me the best execution. So yeah, that's a wonderful thing to have, and it really shouldn't be controversial. Anybody with common sense that understands that this is a really good thing.
Well, see, what you said is the beauty of what the Internet Money wallet does, and what we're working on bringing to our dApp, so you don't even have to use the Internet Money wallet if you want to take advantage of this, is in one single quote, we fetch paths from PulseX V1 and V2, Pateus, Fux, 9mm V2 and V3, Desktop Spark Swap, 9-inch, forked over Uniswap V2, V3, Sushi Swap, Shiba Swap, and Pancake Swap. So if your trade has liquidity on any one of those sources, you're going to see it show up in our quote. And actually, the single place that gives you the most tokens is listed at the top. So rather than having to go to all these places and check all these front ends, bam, it's right there. And you get to say, this is, without a doubt, the best place to trade, because you just searched it all simultaneously. And what we see quite often is, we're talking about this arbitrage, is people that use the aggregator in the Internet Money wallet, they get the opportunity to be human arbitrage because they're searching all these markets at once. A lot of the time, they actually get more tokens than they were actually swapping for. So if I'm swapping $200, I might get $207 because I was the one that took advantage of the arbitrage. And it's possible because you're searching all the markets at the exact same time. So I am an aggregator guy myself through and through. If you're not swapping on an aggregator, you are arguably probably leaving money on the table.
Is that web-based aggregator of yours live now?
Oh yeah, it's live on PulseChain, Ethereum, Binance, and Polygon in
Nice.
app.
Okay,
And
great.
we
So I will throw that in the mix of where I compare where I compare my options very happily. And that, like, just to, I have every incentive to only use my DEX or Pineus, which I own a lot of tokens in. But I'm happy. I'm happy to look around and see who gives me the best deal always. And I think you guys should too. Should we move on to fiat though?
Let's do it.
absolutely.
Yeah, we'll do fiat really quickly. So fiat is our fork of Aave. Aave is basically, you can think of it as a bank. It allows you to borrow and lend against your crypto. It's a super important thing to have on a EVM chain because this is how people can leverage or short spot coins. That's how you can borrow against the collateral that you have. It enables things like flash loans. So we're very pleased with this one. It's got, as you can see, almost $12 million worth of TVL in it, which is a lot for PulseChain. You compare that to anything else, like that's pretty impressive. We've got $1 million worth of DAI sitting in there, $500,000 worth of USDC in there. We've actually constrained this, but we've got quite a bit of Pulse, 37 billion of Pulse and PulseX, and 80 million worth of Hex. It's pretty, like, for PulseChain, these are pretty big numbers.
They are.
Obviously, that'll go up with PulseChain, as it succeeds. We're quite proud of this. This was sort of our first project, and it's quite a complex one. There were about like 4 or 5 other teams that wanted to do an Aave fork, and they all gave up. And we showed up and made it work in a weekend on testnet. We're quite proud of that. It has a token as well, the fiat token, which earns a portion of the revenue. So that's our fork of Aave. And then if we can move on, Dylan, to Fame.io. Just in the interest of time, since I have to leave in about 10 minutes, but Dylan can round up anything. Fame.io is our fork of GMX, so it's probably, this is leverage trading, so it's probably pretty familiar to most of you. We knew that somebody would do this if we didn't do it, so we thought we would do it as ethically as possible and allow people to basically do leverage trading. We like this protocol because it generates a ton of fees. Dylan's clicking the dashboard here. We've been running this thing since around, I think, October, and it's done about $3 million worth of fees in that period, which, once again, for PulseChain, that's enormous, right?
Yeah.
Like, and $500 million worth of volume. Just in the past 24 hours, it's done $36,000 worth of fees. So those fees get split up 60-40 to the PHLP LP providers, who are effectively acting like the house betting against the traders, and 40 to the Fame stakers. This is a very successful protocol on PulseChain. One of the things we're proudest about is I think we've, similar to you guys, we've done pretty well price wise relative to Hex over the same period, or whatever benchmark you want to use. The people that sacrifice for these things have done very well. They've received lots of free airdrops of things like PHUX and eFiat and other stuff. So we're the only place currently where you can do this sort of leverage trading, and we're one of the largest, if not the largest, GMX fork out there. So that's something to be proud of. Obviously, PulseChain's had its ups and downs in its first 6 months, but I think in general, we're pretty pleased with how we're doing relative to everything else, and I think just it's a decent amount of work to run 3 protocols like this and a debank fork. But I think it shows you just how capable my team is and how dedicated and smart they are to be able to pull that off. We don't use third party, developer, guys to manage this stuff for us. This all the code gets done by us. Our guys have been working day and night to get that out. So that's Fame.io. So basically we cover 3 DeFi primitives now that you'll be able to see them. And I think they're pretty core to PulseChain. We were really pleased that Richard tweeted about 2 of them about a month ago.
Congratulations.
Which is nice. I think you got a nod not too long after us, if I recall. So
Also
congratulations
nice.
back.
Thanks.
Yeah. So it's nice, when you get a little bit of acknowledgement from Richard, because we know that he's reticent to even mention things for good reason, because terrible things can happen in crypto, and you can't really be responsible for it. But we believe in the PulseChain mission, and we don't really mind volatility. We see it as an opportunity. So if you don't have a PulseChain position, there's been a nice little sell off recently. So I've been buying a little bit this morning, just a little hint there. There's good times to enter, and there's good times to sell. So everything else is feeling pretty good right now. It's pretty expensive. PulseChain's a place where there's probably been a bit of despair recently, and I like despair from an investment standpoint. It's oftentimes the best time to buy. So it's something I like to point out when I think I see it. Doesn't mean there can't be more despair, but I just think something's interesting to me when people are trying to throw it out the window. Like the best time to buy stocks was right after Lehman Brothers tanked, right? Like if you just went long and anything at that point, say Christmas 2009, you're feeling pretty good, right? The best time to buy besides that, was probably when the COVID shutdown happened and everybody freaked out about that and were trying to sell all their stocks, right? That was the time to go long crypto. I think we're a group of safe hands, grown-ups that like volatility, that like managing risk. And we built these products primarily because we wanted to use them ourselves. And we knew that no one else was going to do it if we didn't. So there you go.
Do it competently. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, people will do it, but they won't actually make it work.
Yeah, there was one that was actually a scam that launched.
and that was that was a
scam.
GMX fork too, right?
Yeah, it's I think it's pretty dead now, but it's called GPLX, and yeah, it launched and died in the same day.
Oh,
yeah. So these things, like, they're not easy to run if you don't know what you're doing, and like you don't have a background, and let's say you're a one-man band. It's really hard to monitor these things 24/7. Because they're going 24/7, and we're doing that not just on one protocol but 3, and it's a pretty big ask. But the beauty of it is we've known each other for a decade now, and that really makes ourselves very synergistic in that regard, and we can cover a lot of different territory together. We have a close personal relationship. So I think that's crucial to our success and why we're able to do this. If I just had to pay strangers to do this, I don't think it would work.
So if you don't mind me asking, and feel free to plead the fifth, I respect everybody's constitutional right, is how big is your development team?
Yeah, so So the PH chain works like this. There's me, who's useless, and then there's my two partners, who do most of the heavy lifting, and they're going to review absolutely everything, right, that gets done by any third party contractor. Then, like, we usually run about two hired guns who are there primarily to support my two partners, right, and just generally do UI related things that aren't like critical, right? They're just, cosmetic. So that's how we've been operating, and it's been working pretty well. So I think we currently have two guys. Sometimes it's three. It depends on what we need at a given point in time.
Makes total sense. And what a lot of people I think fail to recognize is that two high level, full time, competent engineers can get a lot more done than a team of 10 or 15 half-time guys barely paying attention. So sheer numbers don't really mean that much.
Quantity is not, quality. I think what you'll find is that a lot of these things have at least one super genius who does the majority of the heavy lifting, and everybody else is sort of there to support that guy in a sense.
Yep.
Like it's there needs to be one guy who really is across things, and that's what we have. Like our lead dev is incredibly smart. He's not a people person, but he graduated from the Harvard of his respective country. Like when he was like 19. He's just incredibly smart and incredibly disciplined. And like you just can't replace that easily, right? And you also can't just go find that guy and pay that person,
You can't.
a wage to get them to do it. And I think the real key to our success is that we know each other in real life. We know each other's wives and kids. Like it's a rare example in crypto of there's a real human story behind that, and I think that's why we can have trust in each other. I've spoken to a lot of lawyers in the past 2 years as we're doing this, and the biggest issue that he comes across is that these guys don't even like each other half the time, and they get into big fights, things like that. And that's why your team, it's helpful that you're a family team, right? Kind of
Exactly.
It's similar in that regard, right? Like you only get one dad, right? So you can't. It's kind of hard to just walk away from that, right?
Yep.
So it's sort of similar to that. And the funny thing is that we have different skill sets and personalities, and we leverage that. Like the lead dev has absolutely no desire to interact with people or really understand the community. That's not what turns him on. So like, he's not even on Telegram, right? I contact him through other means to give you an idea. Because that's just he wants to sit with the code and monitor things like that. So I should probably get going in a few minutes here. So, but Dylan is happy to kind of walk you through anything else in more detail.
Cool. Buck, appreciate you joining. Thank you for taking the time out. For those that don't know and you want a testament to Buck's dedication, he is supposed to be on vacation right now, and he still wanted to do this stream. So he is putting in the work. And Buck, we thank you for that and appreciate you coming on, talking about what you do. Yeah,
likewise. And, I forgot to say it earlier, but KG and I go back a ways now, probably 2 years at least. So I think it's probably the first time we've done one of these together, but it
is.
We're quite familiar with each other at this stage. So it's feels like talking to a friend. But yeah, the audience may not know that. But you and I do a lot of other stuff behind the scenes, unrelated to internet money or PH stuff directly. Just trying to help the community out, organize things, help new builders come. But yeah, we want competition, and come on over to PulseChain. This is a great community. If anything, there's never a dull day.
The statement of the month: there is never a dull day on PulseChain. And yes, we are constantly working with other builders coming to PulseChain in a builders group that we have. So a lot of that goes unseen, and Buck and I are often in there working on awesome things. So no, I do appreciate you saying that. I appreciate the time I've gotten to know you, and I look forward to continuing to get to know you and seeing what you guys come up with. So, and I will have some more questions for you, Dylan. Absolutely.
Likewise. All right. Well, thank you guys, and Dylan, I'll let you take it away from here, buddy.
Thanks, Buck. See you
later, Barry. So, okay, so Dylan, we do have some questions here. I do want to go back. So we do have a question about PHUX in general.
Okay.
Where did it go? Oh, do tax reward tokens work on PHUX?
I am not sure if they do or not. I think there was one token that tried to have a pool on there, but since there's a tax and reward or whatever on that token, it like acts up and you have to set your slippage weird, as far as I know. But I can definitely ask the devs that for sure if you really need the answer. But yeah, let's see. Hold on. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Let's see here.
Yeah, because I've heard mixed. Yeah, I don't have that answer either.
I don't either. But I mean, if you DM me on Telegram, I'll get back with you for that one. Yeah.
All right, we will get back to that. I don't really. This was for Buck. I don't really know if this is relevant, but Buck, how did Alex from Hedron get paid out again? Glad he did, but people are saying RH bad and Maxi guys and Alex work for free and have no financial incentive. I don't know what this is referring to at all.
How did Alex from Hedron get paid out? Well, Alex had a very successful launch of Hedron. That did really well for everybody that held any hex. And I believe he had some sort of launch for Icosa, where he sold NFTs, and he did really well on that. So those NFTs, I believe, were sold for USDC, right? So yeah, Alex did really well, and he loves this community. I think that he's a force for good, and he continues to build and support, even though his latest thing was kind of shot down by the big man here, but he's gonna keep trucking along and doing his thing. But as far as I know, that's how.
Cool. Alex, I agree, is a force for good. Oh, what's party on, fellas? PH have developed some phenomenal things, and I like how KG's Internet Money Wallet brings everything together from a plethora of chains. Okay. Yeah,
I didn't know that you guys had like an old web aggregator or whatever. That's I'm gonna actually start using that. Is it just internetmoney.io and then I can just find it on the page or something?
Here's the thing. It's only in app right now on Android, iOS, or the Chrome extension. So, for instance, if you're using a hardware wallet, you can basically use the Chrome extension just as a front end. But one thing that has become high on our priority list is to bring it to our website. So,
gotcha.
Keep your eye out on non-app for the near future. But right now, it's only in app.
Okay, roger that. Well, I mean, I can just, fucking chuck the app on my phone and then just,
download the wallet, man.
Put it on while I'm, I could probably do something like that.
Oh, dude, it's kind of fun to trade around because you're sitting there and it's like, oh man, you get access to all the dexes with one click. It's pretty fun. It's hard to articulate why those things are fun, but they are.
Oh, no, don't worry. I love arbitrage.
Yeah. Odd question. Were you ever a Yu-Gi-Oh player back in the day?
I was not, but I
Ah,
have some
strike
cards.
me as a Yu-Gi-Oh player.
Like I have some cards that I had from like elementary school, man. Like but yes. And I looked up the value of them recently. I was like, damn, I can get this much for this fucking card. Are you kidding
Dang,
me?
why am I even in crypto?
And of course, it's like those are the ones that I kept in my pocket all the time, so all fucked up,
Of
But
course.
still, it's cool to be like, wow, this card is worth this much,
Exactly. Yeah, no, it is pretty cool. No, you just struck me as a guy that might play. I was, so that wasn't an insult, but like this guy, card player.
No worries.
All right. I'm only going to pull this question up because I know you guys get it a lot and I want you to have the opportunity to speak to it because I know what the answer is, but is Dylan a racist?
Really, bro? No, man. I'm not racist, dude. I actually grew up in a school where I was the minority. It was a predominantly Hispanic and Black school. So, colorful language is my forte, I guess.
Sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, do with that what you will, man. I guess that's just Florida, man. But yeah, not racist, man. Let me tell you that. Okay.
I got you. I have not seen things that I would say, hey, this guy's a racist. So
yeah,
for what that's worth, but I just wanted to give you the chance to speak to it. Okay.
Yeah. There's one thing I hate, and it's losing money. Okay. Everything else, kumbaya. Let's go. Let's go.
As long as your dollars are green and your crypto is a 1, not a 0.
Yeah.
All right. Someone says, when can we start leverage trading Trump?
Is that the NFT thing or what? Like, I don't know what this is, man. I don't even think we have Trump on fucking PulseChain, dude. Like, what are you talking about, man?
I think it might be a token.
Okay.
But I didn't know if it was relevant to you or not. So
no, sir.
All right. Let's see. When is Fatty going to list more protocols native to PulseChain?
Yeah, so if you guys have protocols that you want to list, you can join the Telegram, right? Which I can grab the. You go in the Telegram, either in the PHUX Telegram or the Fatty Telegram, and then you request that stuff there. But as far as things like USDL or I'm sorry. Like Power City, like they just launched, so that's going to take some time. I'm not sure if Liquid Loans is on there yet, but yeah, devs, that takes a little extra work, guys. So, but as far as logos and tickers, shit like that, that goes up there pretty quickly as long as you you go in the PHUX Telegram and request it and stuff like that. But yeah, that's not like something that we don't do or anything. You just got to reach out, man. That's all.
Cool. And I assume that all that you can find through your sites. All the sites for all the protocols here are in the description below. So you can get to the Telegram from there.
Okay. Yeah. And let me see here. If you go to ecosystem on just fame.io, right? You just go to ecosystem. You can see all the Telegrams right here.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
They're all there. You can interact with either one of them. Fatty's right here. Fatty's not as active, so if you go to PHUX and you at Buck or I, like, hey, I'd like to get my token listed on Fatty. You just go in there in the PHUX Telegram and send us a PNG or some sort of high quality file that you want as a logo, right? And devs will take care of it real quick. It's pretty easy.
I like that Fight Club. That's funny.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, it's got a really funny name. But yeah, it's a great trading chat. It kind of like brings back the hex trading vibes where it was really relaxed, I guess, or maybe even Hex Bear if you're ever in Hex Bear back in the day.
I was.
Yeah, so Hex Bear was very relaxed, so everybody could be bullish, everybody could be bearish. Call each other retards, no recourse kind of thing. And the bands are very, light and limited. So yeah, a nice bare bones trading chat, of course.
I like chats that are free speech chats, and whether you agree or disagree with what's being said, the fact that you can go back and forth and say it, I mean, that's what else are we doing here if it's not
Yeah.
supporting those things?
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you you're retarded, and I want you to be able to tell me I'm retarded. Okay, like we need to go back and forth. We need to discuss our options and then get down into fist fights. Okay, like
Hey, if that's again, not that's not something I choose to say, but hey, I support your right to say whatever the heck you want,
Thank you, sir. Yes,
and
and
I
likewise.
support. Thanks, appreciate that. I'm sure I say things that people don't like to.
Yeah.
So okay, let's see. How to Pulse. Shout out How to Pulse. Internet money makes this ecosystem all the more legit. Thank you for your level-headed perspectives. Shout out How to Pulse.
Seriously.
Fast Abdul says, how do stablecoin pools work differently on PHUX than non-stablecoin pools?
That is a great question. Let's go and look at that right now, why don't we? So if we want to get into the nitty gritty, when you have a regular V2 pool, okay, on something like PulseX, it'll be a symmetrical order book, right? So you'll have 50% of the liquidity on one side and 50% on the other side. Okay. Now they don't act in any other way besides it's like it's a big U, right? When you move, let's say let's do DAI and USDC because they're both $1, so it's kind of easy. If you move in a pool where there's $200,000, so there's 100,000 on each side, you remove 1,000 DAI from one side, and you add 1,000 USDC to the other side, you move the price by 2%. Okay, that's kind of how that function works, right? Whereas on the balancer pools, so we can see here, obviously there's much more liquidity in these pools for me to be able to swap $100,000 than my example. If we go to PHUX, it's more like a plateau where you have very long ranges where the stable coins stay at $1 and then a very sharp drop off as the liquidity is emptied out for one of the tokens. Okay, so let's see here. Let's do the same example. Let's do DAI into USDC. USDC. Okay, and we'll do 100 grand, and let's see what we get. So you actually get $70 extra if you switch from DAI to USDC. And we can do that to, I think, $1 million and still we lose $300, right? And that's because we have a massive plateau and, decent liquidity in the stable pool, right? And it's much more structurally sound for stable coins, right? If you want to speculate on speculative coins like Pulse or Hex or PulseX, having a V2 pool is advantageous to having the price go up, right? And let's just go here just for shits and giggles.
Because technically every buy pushes the price up in some capacity, right? It's not like you don't have these sell walls or buy walls. There's not thick pockets of price protection.
Correct. Yeah. And then you have the liquidity always behind when you're buying or selling, right? So, in V3, you can have large sell walls or asks, and you can have no bids, right? So we had that on eHex actually with BankX, right? BankX put up 750 million hex, right, in a specific range. So those are all asks, and then there was no bids. Okay, so price would move freely on that specific pair, very illiquid, until it hit that ask wall, right? And then you would start to fill it up, and of course they can take it out or they can leave it there, and those bids stay, right? So those asks turns into bids. But on symmetrical liquidity, you always have a bid, you always have an ask. It's equally 50-50, right? So the price can go up, the liquidity on the bid side grows, right? The liquidity on the ask side thins out, but it is still worth the same, or it's still increasing in value because the price of the token is going up, okay? But let's finish our example here. Let's see how PulseX does, I think, with the router on. This is with the router on. So on PulseX, if you go from $1 million,
we can't see your screen.
Oh, hold on. There you go.
There we go. Yep.
Yeah. So on PulseX, if you have $1 million in DAI and you swap into USDC, you'll lose about $200,000. Okay.
Wow.
And the liquidity pools, I think, are twice as large, I believe, than the ones on PHUX for the stable coins, right? And they still have this sort of price impact, right?
So is the auto router on there?
Yeah, the auto router is on right here.
Okay.
Let's see.
Oh, wow.
It's literally just going from DAI to Pulse and Pulse to USDC. It's not even using the fucking stable coins, the stable coin pool, which is kind of wild. So yeah, just because, also the fees on PHUX routing through stables is 5 basis points. We're on PulseX, it is 29 basis points. So there's also that as well. So and that's why.
So your fee is 0.05, whereas you're saying PulseX is 0.29.
On the stable swap pool, yes.
Gotcha.
On a couple pools, the fees are cheaper. So I think on the RH Maxi pool, no, it's 0.3. Let's go see. I believe one of these pools that has RH yield, I forgot which one it was, but there's some pools in here that have a 50 or a 5 basis point fee, but on the stable pool, I know for sure.
There you go. Yep.
5 basis points. So it's very cheap and very efficient. And yeah, that's why PHUX is kind of needed on this chain. It's literally keeping the stable coins at $1 and keeping them stable.
So technically, in your $1 million example there, multiplied by the 5 basis points, that's 500. So, okay, so if you went back to your trade example on PHUX, and you're down, you're going to get $286 less. Where's the fee in that? Because the fee should be $500, right?
Yeah. So because there's difference in pricing versus the stable coins. So since there is less DAI than USDC, there is a slight price change in your ratio. Okay. The price change is very small. It's like a plateau. There is still price change between these stable coins, but as long as there is sufficient liquidity, the price change is it's very small. Okay. I think it ranges maybe a couple percent, right? And then once it goes to where, let's say, let's go back to our pool page, and let's say that the bridge stable pool, let's say there's only $100,000 of DAI, right? And we want to switch from DAI into USDC. You're going to get a way better rate with your DAI, right? So let's say you add 100 grand to DAI, and then you want to buy USDC. You might get, a positive 2%, right? Let's say there's no DAI, right? You're going to get a really good deal at that point for any of the other stable coins because you're adding DAI. You've dropped off the plateau, etc. Right? So if you want to find out exactly the specifics of this equation and the kind of setup for these pools, you can read the Git book for Balancer. I don't know if it's on ours, just because we've added the stuff that we've done. But yeah, if you really want to know, you just look up the Git book on Balancer, and it'll tell you all about this stuff.
That is not light reading, but it's there.
Do what?
That's not light reading, but it's there. The in-depth details of the mathematical calculations of how these pools are working and stuff. It's like, yeah, they put it out there for you, but it's like,
but good luck.
It's there. Yeah. You tell me about it. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I can't draw a parabola on screen, but literally, it's literally like a plateau, and then it drops off. That's the best way I can describe it.
Sure.
And if you go on the page, there's a nice picture of a fucking plateau, just like that. And you can kind of gather, okay, that's what's going on here. Whereas the 50-50 pools, they just go like this, like that, right? They have a big sharp point, and then they go down, right? And then that's how they're extremely volatile. Where these kind of stable out, and they're very, very useful for stable coins.
Which, going back to our discussion earlier about the V2, right? And then the V3, you sort of get that. I guess the major benefit of V3 is you kind of get the limit orders. I think you basically get limit orders. So I
Yeah.
guess, you know, that's pretty cool about V3, I guess.
Yeah, I think V3 is a great way to get out of the market, right? So
Because you're not
um,
just dumping the price right then and there.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, when you're in size and you're trying to get out, selling can kind of take forever, right? Whereas, if you have where you can post asks and limit orders where they can slowly get filled, it doesn't hurt the market. It kind of helps with getting out, right? The market can get you really euphoric. You're not, suppressing price. You're not like fucking giving it big red candles or anything like that. It's kind of just naturally filling your bid or your ask. So, yeah. And then also at the bottom, if you want to make a bottom, a great way to do that is to post a bid, right? And then let that bid fill. But yeah, later on in the market, yeah, that's V3 is the way to go, man. So pumps.
And you're not hurting yourself too, because if you are able, like you said, to put up those asks when you want to sell, or when you want to put the bids in to buy, you're not spiking the price buying against yourself or dumping the price and selling against yourself. It's a better
Correct.
way to enter and exit big positions.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. And then you really don't have to be as interactive, I guess. Whereas, what we have right now on Pulse, if you want to get in with liquidity, with the liquidity that we have, you just go on one of the auto routers and you just go to town, 10K clips, and you don't really push yourself up against you. It just takes a little bit, right? But that's what we have. I know there is a V3 fork on PulseChain. There's a native one. And then I think there's 9mm, right? And those are great solutions if you know how to use them to get in and out of the market at a specific price. But I heard some horror stories the other day where on there was guys providing liquidity on V3 on Ethereum side on Uniswap, and they had liquidity open. They're providing liquidity on EHEX, okay, and the gas fees on ETH were just too strenuous, and the price was moving too quick, and they just watched the liquidity fill all the way up with EHEX, and then it went out of their range, and they were stuck holding the bag. So be careful.
Good warning. Okay, so we have another question here about Fame. When will Fame have liquidity? I don't know. I don't know what this is.
Yeah, so that's in reference to this. I'll show you.
Okay.
Let's go to Fame Analytics. So let's go see how many people or how much longs there are. So there's $1.6 million in long positions on Fame right now. Okay. Literally maxing out the protocol. Okay. As you can see, since we launched, the protocol has literally been maxed out the entire time. Okay. With longs. Everybody wants the long rich hard coins. Everybody can't get enough long. Okay. Everybody wants the long, which is interesting because, when the price is going down or up, it doesn't matter. Long. That's what the market tells you. Okay. Which is pretty interesting. So with that being said, unfortunately, since the chain is a majority of the liquidity is on a V2 pool, it's very volatile with just a little bit of buying and selling. Okay. I think today alone, let's go check how much is Hex down today. Hex is down 15% today. What's Pulse down? Pulse is down 11% today. Okay. And that's strenuous on a leveraged trading platform. Okay. So if we have tens of millions of dollars for you guys to be able to long this stuff, the guys that are providing the liquidity will no longer provide the liquidity, because when you win really, really big. And when you lose, obviously you lose really big. But let's say, for instance, the other day we went up 40% in a day. Okay. And let's say you had a $1 million long, right? Well, the liquidity on Fame is, I think, $3 million right now, right? That you can use for longing and shorting. And it's restricted so that this doesn't happen, right? Where if the price goes up really high, or let's say somebody's manipulating the price, where there's a big guy trying to get out. Okay. Let's say DO1, right? Everybody hates that guy. DO1's trying to sell his PulseX, okay? And he's able to take out $1 million short position, All right. And then he's going to sell. Right. And he sells and he drops the price 50%. Okay. Well, all the slippage that he got is taken care of by going short. Okay. And then he can close his short. He can be in profit in a very short period of time. Right. And then he can just go buy back and then go long. And he can just do this all day. Right. So having these restrictions on the liquidity that we have on PulseChain, so it's not extremely liquid. The price is very volatile. And, there is, ripe for manipulation, right? So you have to limit the protocol for the amount of liquidity that's available. So this doesn't happen. You have to limit how fast people can open and close trades. And, you have to make it to where it's safe for the guys that are providing the liquidity that you're trading, stay there and want to keep providing the liquidity, right? So with all these things in mind, there is a time limit to how fast you can trade. There is a cap on the maximum position size you can have. But good news is when the chain matures and grows, these will be lifted. You'll be able to open up bigger positions. You'll be able to trade a little bit faster. But right now, we're just not there yet. So, but if you think PulseChain is going to do well, these restrictions will lift eventually. Okay, so just keep that in mind. But that's why it's just maxed out, man.
Okay, so just give me a base level, a high level of what is a short, what is a long for those watching that may be newer to this side of the industry.
Okay, so going long or going short, right? So I'm going to assume that all of you guys have Richard Hart tokens, okay? You guys have bought them. You want the price to go up. So you're net long. You want the price to go up. Long means you're betting that the price is going to go up, okay? Short would be where you've sold and you think the price is going to go down. So let's say, you sold your hex at, 3 cents the other day, all right? Like we didn't hit 3 cents, but make it a nice round number, right? You sold your hex at 3 cents the other day. And now the price is down to 1.5 cents, right? So you had a short open at 3 cents and, you sold your tokens, you're naked shorting, and you bought back at 50%, profit, right? So you bought back at 1.5 cents, okay? And you can buy back with half of your cash, right? So if you bought or if you sold for cash, let's say $100,000 worth of hex, you can buy back with 50 grand. And now you have $50,000 of profit from that short, but you have the same amount of hex that you bought or that you had originally. You know what I mean? So that's a short. A long would be you bought at 15 cents or 1.5 cents with 100 grand. And it went up to 3 cents and now you have 200 grand. Okay. And now you made $100,000, right? Longing always pays better than shorting. Okay. Cause you can only short to 0. All right. But you can long to as high as it'll go. Right. And Richard has said this for a long time. There's different ways you can get leverage. You can get leverage on fame, high leverage on fame. Where you're betting on the price. You're not actually moving the spot price on fame. You're just betting on it. And you can use the super intuitive. Hold on.
So well, real quick. So when you do a long or a short, are you actually saying, hey, I'm longing this hex to $1 over the next 12 months? Like, are you defining the parameters that granularly? Or is it more just overall sentiment goes up? I mean, how granular is the long or the short?
Yeah, so a long or a short position is just what you're doing. Are you thinking the price is going to go up? Okay, so you bought tokens, and now you're waiting for the price to go up. You're long, right? If you're short, you think the price is going to go down. You sold your tokens, and you're waiting for it to go down so you can buy back, right? Okay. Or you just don't buy back at all, right? But yeah, so there's different ways you can do this. You can do this with derivatives, which is what fame is, where you can take out a high leverage and just amplify your position. So let's say you for some reason you saw the SEC news come out, right, on Richard Hart stuff. Okay, well, you don't want to sell your tokens, but you know the market's going to go down. You open up a short on Fame, right? You don't have to sell your tokens. You just literally just bet to protect yourself that the market's going to go down. So you open up a short with a high leverage, right? Which means, let's say you do a 10x short, right? For you to get the total exposure of your portfolio, you only need 10% of your net worth, right? So let's say you had a portfolio of 10 grand, okay? And you wanted to protect your entire portfolio to the downside, and you used 10x leverage, you'd use $1,000, and now you have a $10,000 short position, right? So you'd capture the volatility of a $10,000 short position in that trade, okay? But if the price moves 10%, you're wiped out. You know, you lose your collateral because your principal is $1,000, your size is 10 times that, and your gains are amplified by 10 times. So that also occurs to the downside as well, or the inverse. Okay. And that's derivatives. All right. The other way you can open up leverage would be spot trading, right? Which is low leverage, borrowing stuff on fiat. Okay. You know, I'm going to go out and say this. If you don't know how to do this stuff, you probably shouldn't be doing it. Okay. But it's a useful tool for those that know how to do this stuff. You know, leverage is a very quick way to lose all your money. You need to keep that in mind. Loans are very risky and a very speculative asset. So, you know, but if you're sure of something and you want to do, you know, leverage and increase your exposure, these are the tools to do it. All right. So just throwing it out there. But another way would be, let's say, you can also do this with liquid loans or Power City, right? Let's say, you know, you wanted to go long on Pulse, right? And you wanted to sit in this position for a very long time, right? You deposit some Pulse, you borrow a different token. So you could borrow ETH, you could borrow DAI, you could borrow PulseX, right? As long as you think Pulse is going to go up versus the token you're buying, what you would do is you deposit your Pulse, you borrow something else, and you sell it for Pulse, right? So if you borrow DAI, you sell it for Pulse, right? If you borrow USDC, you sell it for Pulse, and you put Pulse back in the pool, and you can kind of just loop it, right? You need to be mindful that that's leverage. So if the price moves against you, you can get liquidated, right? Same way, right? You need to be mindful of this stuff, but these are the ways you can open up leverage, and you know, you can get a little bit more exposure to the upside. But a lot of people are just fine holding and just waiting, like you know, most of us here. So
that I'm happy to hear that you made that disclaimer, because if anybody's feeling overwhelmed by all the details that he just spoke to, that's okay, because there's a lot of details, and I'm sure he's still just scratching the surface.
yeah,
So when you're interacting in crypto at all, you should take the time to do research until you feel comfortable making that move. And if you are unsure, do more research, because like he said, you can get liquidated. Your bag can go to zero. You can lose all of your money.
Money gone.
Money gone. Dev cannot help.
Yeah.
So
we've seen some funny stories of that. You know, if you've been around crypto long enough, you'll see people blow up their portfolios. One of the biggest hedge funds in crypto almost got liquidated. All right. Three Arrows Capital. If you guys were around for the bear market, you'll know that they had a leveraged long position open on Ethereum. Okay. And they were borrowing money from Celsius, BlockFi, Voyager, and they were depositing it in Aave and then using that to borrow more ETH to deposit more ETH to borrow more stable coins and buy more ETH and just fucking leverage that puppy up, you know? And what's funny is through all of that, they did not get liquidated, but they were selling NFTs for 50 grand to fund their position so that they could lower their liquidation level. They were selling shit coins left and right as fast as they could so that they can pay Aave back so that they were not forcefully liquidated, because you know, they were writing emails to Voyager, BlockFi saying, hey, yeah, we'll pay you back. And then they're like, well, when are you going to pay us back? We'll pay you back later. You know, fuck off. You know, we'll pay back. Don't worry, your liquidity is safe with us, right? Meanwhile, they're just fucking pulling the slot machine, going heavy long on Ethereum while the price is crashing. Okay, but these DeFi protocols, when people caught wind, they tried to hunt their stops, right? They tried to push the price down. They tried to kill they tried to get these guys to get liquidated so that they could buy lower. It's called, forcefully selling. Okay. But yeah, that's an interesting way that these DeFi protocols are used. I haven't used fiat to leverage yet, right? So I have, however, used fiat to buy a car, right? So I deposited some hex and I borrowed against my hex and I bought a car. So I think that's really cool. That's a great feature for big guys that want to finance something in the real world, whether it's, fund a business venture that you like to do, or help start a development team, or even, buy a car, right? That Ferrari you always wanted, go fucking deposit your Pulse and go borrow, right? You don't have to sell it. Don't
What
be a dick.
what are you borrowing in fiat? What asset?
So stablecoins, right? I know Hex is going to go up in price. So, I borrowed at a low Hex price, and, my collateral, or my debt grows at, let's see, 60% a year right now. But I know Hex is going to perform better than 60% a year. Like, come on, dude.
Sure.
This is crypto, baby. We're going up
Right.
multiples, right? So it makes sense for me to take out a loan on this, and I'm happy to pay, 50%, 60% on my loan when I know Hex is going to go up more than that in a year. You know what I mean? And obviously, I didn't max out my loan. I just took out a little bit versus my Hex. And you can do the same thing with your Pulse, with your PulseX. You can have all three of them, right, as your collateral, and you can borrow these stable coins to finance stuff in the real world or use leverage. So very useful stuff.
So, okay. So you're talking about fiat here. And at what point? So at some point, there's a liquidation event possibility. At what point does that come into play? If Hex price does, if it dips below a certain amount, I mean, at what point do you get liquidated there?
Correct. Yeah. So this is determined by your health factor, right? So your health factor is the higher, the better. So at below 1, you start to get liquidated. Okay. And that's calculated based off of your collateral versus your debt, right? And then that includes your LTV. So for Hex, the LTV is 50%, right? So let's click on Hex here. We can see maximum LTV, 50%, right? If, let's say, I have $100,000 of Hex deposited. So that used to be about 5 million Hex, okay? And let's say I borrowed 10 grand, right? So basically, I have a $50,000 line of credit, and I've borrowed 10 grand against it, okay? So if the price drops, I believe 80%, my Hex will then be used to buy back my debt on the open market until either I run out of Hex, remember, because it's 50% LTV, so there's another 50% there to buy back the stablecoin, or my loan is paid off. So let's say, out of the 100 grand, like I said, I can only borrow against 50 grand. And, the price dropped 80%. Then it would use basically a little over half my Hex, because there's a liquidation penalty, to pay off my loan, right? And it would do that automatically, forcefully. That would be given up to an auction, and then a bot, which you can run. Anybody watching the stream, if you're smart enough to build a liquidation bot for fiat, you can do that, and you can run the liquidation and collect a fee for that, which would be among this 12% here. But that's how that would work. So that would also work if the price of Hex was stagnant and you never paid your loan off. Your loan would slowly grow against your collateral until either you pay it back or it starts to sell your collateral to pay off your loan.
So when you say it grows, are you saying that the interest effectively that it's accruing then pushes you out of that LTV effectively?
Correct. Yeah. So you can see on the dashboard here. Let's go to.
And real quick before you go, that 76 million, that's how much people can borrow.
Correct. And then the 3
Okay.
million. Now this is hex, right? It's not
Oh, I
dollars.
see. I see.
Yeah.
I see.
And then and then so people have borrowed 3 million hex,
Gotcha.
and you can see this hex slowly growing, which is that's what they owe. So it'll slowly grow over time. But we can see
Gotcha.
that a lot better on, let's say, DAI. The rate of growth is pretty quick, right? In terms of what we're seeing on screen here. So you can see DAI, there is a little over $1 million deposited, and then so $1 million, $1,005,000 is deposited, and people have borrowed $900,000 out of that million, and the depositor. So if you deposit at this bank, right, this DeFi bank, you're getting a 24% APY on your deposit, and that doesn't include risk of impermanent loss in terms of like a liquidity pool, right? Your risk would be the bridge risk, which always exists on PulseChain, and then it would be a bad debt risk, right? So that would be if, like, say something catastrophic happened to PulseChain and the price went down like 90%, right? Like in a couple of minutes, then obviously a lot of shit's breaking on PulseChain, but something like that would happen. But obviously we don't think that that's going to happen, so that risk is very slim. However, you have to realize that stuff exists. Okay. But yeah, your borrow APY, if you're taking out these loans, is 60% right now. And your deposit APY for just being a depositor at the bank, right, is 24%, which is pretty impressive.
So why would I take my DAI here, take a 70% or sorry, a 30% value cut in my available capital, only to incur interest and have to pay back more later? Why would I do this?
Are you talking about depositing DAI and borrowing more DAI?
Right. That seemed like what. Or are you saying that I can deposit anything and pull out the DAI?
No. This is just DAI, man. So you can just deposit DAI, and then you don't have to do anything else, right? You're just it's like you open up a bank account and then you just put your money in there. It's the same sort of function, right? You're just a depositor at the bank.
So other people are using your DAI as liquidity for their loans.
That is correct.
Got you. Okay.
So you're supplying me so I can take out my loan and I can pay for my car, right? Or you can find the guy that's taking out a leveraged long or whatever anybody's doing. They could be even arbitraging, let's say, a stability pool, right, on liquid loans. Let's say they're using this DAI, which they're paying 60% to borrow. Like, let's say they don't want to get rid of their Pulse, so they deposit their Pulse, okay, and they borrow a stable coin that has the cheapest borrow APY, right? And then they chuck it in that stability pool on liquid loans that's paying 160%. You know what I mean? And then they're arbitraging that spread, right? And they're making some free APY, and that's called a positive carry trade. And so people do that, right? It just depends on what the market has available for people to do. But yes, this is other people borrowing these assets, and you're just a depositor, and you're collecting what they're paying, basically. So
I got you. So when going back to the hex screen, that is saying that amount of hex on the right, the 80 million hex or whatever. Yep, 76. So that is what people are depositing, saying, hey, you can take my hex, take a loan. Gotcha. Okay. Clicks.
Correct.
The clicking. Yeah. Got it.
And this is what people have actively taken out in loans, about 50 grand.
So can I go in here and say, considering the liquidity is available, I can say, hey, I want to put my hex in there and I want to take DAI, or I want to put my DAI in there and I want to take hex.
Correct.
Okay. Can I, as the person who is making the liquidity available for the loan, can I choose which assets I'm willing to accept as collateral?
Yeah. So you can have, it's not like you can have one thing or the other. You can have a basket of collateral. So you can have
Oh, I see.
You can deposit Bitcoin, you can deposit ETH, you can deposit PulseX. You can have all of these activated as your collateral. And then let's say you have these deposits. Let's say you wanted to isolate yourself. You could turn off collateral for certain assets, and you can have it only exposed to others while you take out loans. You understand? So, you can limit, like, let's say you take out a loan against your ETH, right? But you also have PulseChain as a deposit. You can turn off collateral for your PulseChain and just have the exposure to the ETH and whatever your debt is, right? So let's say, you don't pay back your loan and your ETH gets liquidated, your PulseChain will not be touched because you've turned off collateral for PulseChain in that loan scenario. But yes, you can have a basket of collateral. And then, that's all calculated in your health factor. And then you can borrow whatever you want. You can borrow a range of things. You can borrow DAI, USDC, PulseX. It doesn't matter. The protocol doesn't care. All the protocol cares about is what your health factor is. And if it's going below 1, that's all it cares about.
So let's say I'm somebody who comes in and puts up DAI.
Yeah.
Deposits DAI, lets people loan against my DAI.
Yeah.
Or take me. Yeah, okay. Can I say, hey, I don't want to accept loans, that are using Hex in this example as the collateral. I only want to accept loans that are using Pulse as collateral. Because if these people get liquidated, that's how you're also getting paid, right? Is in that the asset that is the collateral, collateralized asset?
No, you're not getting paid liquidations. The bot processes those, and then the fees are paid to you're only getting paid DAI, right? So if you're the depositor of DAI, you just get paid more DAI because people owe you more DAI.
Got you.
Yeah. So you're not getting paid Hex or anything like that. Unless you're staking fiat, then you get paid Hex.
Oh, okay. So tell me about that. So the fiat stakers get what? The liquidations?
The fiat stakers get the spread of they get the spread between the depositor and the borrower.
Oh,
They get the middle. They get the middle.
So right there, they're getting a 36% delta.
Correct.
Wow. In whatever the asset is.
Correct. Yeah. So they get a little bit of Pulse, a little bit of Hex, but yeah, they're getting the most in DAI, and they've been getting the most in DAI for a while. Yeah. I think fiat pays based on the price of the token. You get about 4% on your fiat, and you get all of these tokens, but mostly DAI.
And so how much is there some split? Like, okay, so that the delta goes to the fiat stakers. Is it 100% or what's the breakdown?
So based on the ratios, it's like roughly a 50%, right? So the borrowers are paying 60, and the depositors are getting paid roughly half, and then the other half is just getting paid to the stakers of fiat token.
Yeah, I understand.
That delta. Yeah. So you're getting your deposit APY, and then your borrow APY, and that spread is just paid to the stakers. That's it. It's just really, really apparent on the DAI. Like, it's like really easy to see right there.
Yeah.
So.
And so why is the APY so high? Because DAI is what most people who are coming in looking for loans, DAI is the asset they want the most.
Yeah. So it's based off of usage. So more use, higher borrow rates, right?
Yeah.
And then there's an equation again, and if you really want to know like how it's all calculated, it's like calculus and stuff like that. So I don't know. I just know more borrowing, higher fees, lower borrowing, lower fees. And you can see that with like Pulse, right? If somebody maxed out the Pulse pool, it'd be like 200% APY, right? But there's only 300K being borrowed against 5 million Pulse, or $5 million of Pulse. So the borrow APY is only 2.5%, right? But if it was maxed out, you'd be paying a shitload of money to borrow that Pulse. So
which makes sense, because you're saying I'm willing to pay a premium to borrow this asset. That's how valuable the asset I'm trying to borrow is.
Yeah.
So you're willing, like, look at the DAI. It's like 915 borrowed and only 1 million total market size, it's not 91%. You know, that's
People want long, man. I'm telling you, everybody okay. So I'm pretty sure most of that is just people going long.
wow.
So yeah, so they're just literally borrowing the DAI and buying more of the RH ecosystem assets. I'm pretty sure.
That's pretty. I mean, you would know better than me, but would that not be? Is that not a bullish situation for the ecosystem in general?
Everybody wants the long, rich hard stuff, man. Yes, it's pretty wild. So before, when it first launched and I took out my loan, I was paying like 7%. Not anymore. I pay 60% now.
60.
Yeah. So, but I know Hex is going to go up, you know, or PulseChain. So I'm happy to pay that.
So I got you. And that's where the LTV comes into play, because let's say you deposited 100K Hex, $100,000 worth of Hex.
Yeah.
You got the $50,000. Let's just say you maxed it out. You took the 50,000.
Yeah.
Well, the reason why you're incentivized to pay your loan is because if you don't, if you say, "Oh, screw that loan,"
you lose your Hex.
Yeah, but you lost the 100 grand, not the 50.
You lose. So you'll lose 12%. Let's go back to the thing here. You have a penalty, a liquidation penalty of 12.5%. So you lose at 12%, but it'll liquidate you until either your health factor is above 1 or your loan is completely paid off. So if that means that it uses all of your collateral, so be it. If that means that you only have 20% left, so be it, right? But the protocol is going to get paid at the end of the day, right? The depositors are going to be made whole. You know, that's why the LTV, because Hex can have pretty wild swings. So that's why the LTV is very low on Hex, just because of the volatility that it has. But essentially, you know, out of that 100 grand, you know, you have a pretty big spread and a pretty big cushion to make sure that the depositors are made whole. So, but yeah, and it happens really quick when you get liquidated on fiat. So it's very unforgiving because we want to keep the depositors whole, as I'm sure you guys understand that. So,
well, without the depositors,
there is no bank.
You don't have a system. Exactly. So yeah, exactly. You guys like borrowing. Well, gotta like those depositors.
Correct.
No, and this is one reason I really like doing these deep dive streams too, is because I'm learning right here a lot.
I can tell. Yeah, it's great.
It's a dang cool system. Like I'm like feeling like my brain's churning. Like what are some plays I can make? You know.
Yeah. And I think actually, as a matter of fact, one of our biggest customers, I believe, is Coast. So those guys, self-funded team, by the way, they're doing an excellent job.
Shout out Coast.
They've deposited their Pulse and PulseX, and they've been borrowing stable coins to kind of balance out their books and things like this, and to help their protocol, be successful. So that's actually a real use case that's happening right now on PulseChain with fiat. I believe is just the Coast guys, right? They love our protocol; they use it all the time.
Wow.
So yeah,
that is. Yeah, shout out Coast team. It's cool too to see the inter-team ability.
Correct. Yeah, it's great. The symbiotic relationships that we all have and share. Yeah.
Exactly.
So like if the internet money team needed to do payroll or something, instead of taking out fucking credit at a bank, man, you just pull you just open up a line of credit at this bank.
I mean, for that reason or just any reason, really, it's worth considering, because one thing that people in crypto are always looking for is, how do I keep my money in crypto and still accomplish what I'm trying to accomplish in life? And so I'm learning right now that this really is a way to do that.
Yeah.
So here's a question, and maybe you can't answer this, and maybe it doesn't have an answer. How are these considered from a taxation standpoint? You know, like, did you
I'm not
lose?
tax professional, sir. I don't know.
Okay, no, that's fair. That's fair.
As far as I know, if you borrow against your assets, last I checked, that was tax free. But again, I am not a tax professional.
Not financial advice, not tax advice. Yeah, all that. Yeah, I got you. Okay, so that's fair, but that's interesting to consider. That's something I'm going to deep dive in more off stream, because if you put it up, well, at least in my jurisdiction, when you receive the asset, that is taxable event number one. You're taxed at the value. So let's say Hex in this case, I go and I someone sends me $1,000 in hex. Okay, I now have a tax liability of $1,000. Well, that then pumps to 2,000. I'm not taxed on the difference yet. I'm only taxed if I sell at 2,000. Now I pay capital gains on the $1,000 delta there. But I wonder how that would play out. Like, let's say it pumps to 2,000. Then I go in and take this loan, and I only took out half of that. So technically, especially with the LTV being 50%, well, I didn't realize the full $2,000 of value. And technically, I'm paying interest. So I feel like there's a case to be made there for you. You took a loss.
Sure.
I mean, not tax advice, but I'm just, I feel like just preliminary thoughts. There's a case for a loss there. Well, not saying anything negative about fiat, just saying getting creative.
Yeah, being creative with taxes. Yeah, moving money around. Hey,
Yeah.
man, if you could, swing that and with your tax guy and do your thing. Hey, I'm not gonna stop you, man. Fucking grease those wheels, bro. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Here on the channel, we fully encourage you to pay your taxes, but we also fully encourage tax creativity. There are rules and regulations out there for a reason.
If you've ever run a business, you got to grease the wheels a little bit when it comes to taxes. So
as long as you're playing by the rules,
correct.
The rules are there.
Yeah. Smartest people in the world use the rules to pay no taxes. So,
exactly.
Grease the wheels, man.
Well, on that note, I think we covered a lot of alpha. We had a lot of details, a lot to sink in. Is there anything you want to touch on before we close it down?
I think that I've been seeing a lot of hex FUD recently. Okay, I'm sure you have too, KG. Right? Sure. People have been going after hex in general, whether it's on PulseChain or hex on Ethereum. We've all been kind of trying to say that, listen, guys, hex on Ethereum, sure, it's flawless. It does really well in terms of what it's designed to do. But guys, PulseChain was built for hex, right? It's time to come home. Okay. And I'm sure we all understand that now, whether you like it or not. It's been, made very clear. There is no question. However, it will still have a value. It might not be extremely valuable, but it'll still have a value. People are going to still buy it. They're still going to sell it. Still going to stake it. So it's not going to die. It's just going to be less valuable. All right. However, the guys that are saying that fucking hex on PulseChain is like, inferior now because of XYZ or cycle 2 or this bullshit, right? Keep in mind that PulseChain was essentially an investment when you set your hex or your USDC at the top of the bull market, right? There is a massive overhead there for those guys that invested in PulseChain back in the day, years ago, okay? That was still an investment, right? Some of those guys are in massive profit, depending on size, for what they sacrificed in hex, okay? Same with PulseX, same goes, right? There is a lot of speculation going on. However, I'm of the position that, Pulse and PulseX might be expensive versus hex at the moment, right? I have a hex bag myself, so take that with what you will. But disclaimer, right? I have a lot of hex. Okay, I don't have very much PulseX or Pulse, right? But I just want to go out and say that when liquidity farms dry up, when validator APY slowly dwindles down, the place where people will come home to find the yield will be hex again, right? And that's very obvious, right? Ink farms, they're not going to stay at 160% for years. It's just not going to happen. It's unsustainable. Okay, so keep that in mind when you guys are speculating. Okay, and when you think that hex is dead and this and that, when people are saying that on Twitter, it's probably time to go back into hex or get some exposure. Is my take. So I just wanted to throw that out there and kind of make that clear. Like, no, hex is not dead. It's not going anywhere. Maybe the one on eHex, eHex is not going to do very well, but that doesn't mean PX is not going to do very well. Okay. So yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there.
Thank you for sharing your perspective on that. It has been the hot topic as of late, and crypto's crazy. Who knows, man? Maybe the hex narrative become, if we see hex dip lower on Ethereum, for example. I mean, last time I checked earlier today was 302
Hmm.
on the main chart that comes up on Deck Screener. I'm forgetting the pool pair right now, but that's actually below Hex's all-time low that chart shows, and it goes back to late
2020.
2019. Say again?
2020.
Yep. So there could easily be this narrative that's like, bring Hex back. But I do agree that Hex is more efficient for what Hex is designed to do on PulseChain. It
Correct.
just makes more sense. Now, if people, it was interesting to hear Richard comment on that too. He's like, the big counter argument is if PulseChain 14,000 X's, Hex will. It's like, yeah, guys, if PulseChain 14,000 X's, it makes total sense. It's like we don't
We got
really have
bigger problems to worry about.
exactly. You got a
Like, come on.
great situation, like so yeah.
Oh my God, I can't end my stake. It cost me $1 worth of pulse back in the day. Oh, what am I gonna do? Oh, Jesus! Like, come on, let's be honest here, guys. Come on.
Right. So PulseChain in its current state is more optimized for Hex. Hey, in the future, maybe Ethereum works out the S load problem. Maybe they lower it. Maybe Hex becomes more realistic to stake and unstake there. But at this time, it's just not financially feasible for 90 to 95% of players in this ecosystem to stake and unstake on Hex. It's just not.
Yeah.
So I hear your sentiments there, and I feel the same way in many respects.
Yeah. So, and the whole narrative of fucking, dump all your Hex because it's totally toast. Like, dude. And the bow wave of fucking end stakes, like, guys, this is recycled FUD. Like, we're really doing this again for the 4th fucking year. Seriously, man? Really? The bow wave? Like, that's classic. That comes out every month, dude. Everyone short stakes. Right? There's billions of Hex at short stakes every month. There's a bow wave. Massive. And then it fucking ramps up over time. Okay? And it's just interesting how people will just start pulling all these straws out of the hats just to try and fucking kill something. It's wild. And theoretically, when people start doing that stuff, usually that's a sign, right? There is a clear sign there that something is at a deep discount. People are throwing it out the window, and you want to be picking some stuff up. That's the personal stance that I have. And if Hex keeps getting sold, I'll have to buy more. I recently did a swing trade, and I'll probably have to buy that trade back if it fucking keeps dropping. But anyways.
Well, hey, when you're out there swing trading, be careful.
Yeah. So, but anyways, yeah, that's just my thoughts on that.
Okay. Well, Dylan, man, I really appreciate you sticking around. We're at about hour 45. It's going to be good information to digest, but I'm going to pull you down. I'm going to finish the stream with some closing thoughts. I appreciate your time today. Appreciate all you're doing for PulseChain and crypto in general. It was good to talk to you on this level, and thanks for teaching me.
Hey, man. Thanks for having me on. Till next time, I'll be back.
All right. Till next time. Dylan's links and everybody and all other relevant links are in the description. So go give him a follow on Twitter.
Thanks.
All right. Later, brother.
Later.
All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in today. We got some alpha and some education on the PH ecosystem that is an Ethereum and PulseChain ecosystem. We learned about Fame, which is a GMX fork. We learned about Fiat, which is an Aave fork. We learned about PHUX, which is a Balancer V2 fork. And we learned about Fatty, which is a portfolio tracker, kind of like DBank. Not necessarily a DBank fork, but it's got a lot of similarities. We heard from the founder himself, Buck. We learned from one of the lead knowledge experts in the PH community, Hexastani Dylan. And so if you're just tuning in towards the end, go back to the beginning. It's a lot of information to digest, but that's what these deep dive streams are all about. They're not necessarily for you to get everything in one stream. They are to provide some education, perhaps some golden nuggets of things you didn't consider before, and to help you start your crypto journey into these different protocols. In a lot of different a lot of different streams, you can often find high level streams, especially for protocols that are more relatively well known. And here on the Internet Money channel, we do provide a lot of that high level beginner information, but we want to provide relevant information for people of all experience levels. So whether you're day one in crypto or whether you were there day one in crypto, we want there to be relevant information for you. So if you go back and you watch this stream, you're surely going to come up with more questions. There is surely things that we did not speak to. Take your notes, continue to do your own research, because that's what crypto is all about. Got to remember those 3 big rules in crypto, and they are: number 1, not your keys, not your coins. And if that doesn't make sense to you, you're not ready to do anything else or go any further. Rule number 2, never FOMO, in or out. If something is a real and relevant crypto project, it'll be here tomorrow. And rule number 3, don't trust, verify. The beauty of audited, open sourced code, the beauty of having a whole community to lean on is that you can verify the information that everybody is telling you. So take your time, do your research, and stay safe out there in crypto. And if you're looking for that open source audited wallet that does not collect data and is the best place to swap on PulseChain, and it is an amazing place to swap on Ethereum, Binance, and Polygon, supports all EVM chains, period. That is internetmoney.io, available on Android, iOS, and Chrome. As always, thank you for tuning in today. You have 2 minutes. We're going to end with the Internet Money Anthem. Till next time, my name is KG, founder of internetmoney.io. Peace.
What is cryptocurrency? Cryptocurrency is more than just money. Cryptocurrency is a lifestyle, a philosophy, an ecosystem, the means by which human beings to attain financial freedom, not just in the sense of multiplying their investment, but giving humans the ability to interact with money in any way that they see fit. And if that way doesn't already exist, that's the beauty of crypto, is you can create it. And that's what we've done here. Internet money is the future. Internet money is the future. What is internet money, you ask? Well, it's just that.